And so we are ready to end our Spa weekend after a couple of fantastic races which have opened the weekend, and victories for Alex Ninovic and a first victory for Kanato Lee in GB3. The two of them shared 2 podiums apiece so far this weekend. Will either of them work their way through the reverse grid field to make it 3 from 3? Hugo Schwartz though will be starting from the reverse grid pole position, putting himself in position to win a second reverse grid though in a row. Can though he do so? Let's take a look at highlights from the previous race.
Highlights from the second race at Spa and round 8 of the GB3 Championship partnered by the BRDC. It was a poor start from our pole sitter Kanato Lee as he was swallowed up by the likes of Keanu Alazari down into the first corner and Hayu Yamakoshi straight around the outside. It would be a road in 1-2 as they would head onto the Kemmel Straight, but afterwards it was absolute chaos. Keanu Alazari down the inside in the bright pink BWT car, then skipping over the inside was Will McIntyre, and Yamakoshi had found his way through all of that into second spot. Further down the order and outside of the top 10, there was this excellent battle between Hugo Schwarzer and Patrick Hoytenroder, the pair of them going side by side between Eau Rouge and Radion. But for two drivers that were battling up the order back in race 1, they were struggling here in race 2. Further down the order for the battle for the 4th position, it was Yamakoshi who was struggling a little bit for speed, as it was the number 4 of Nikita Johnson using his high-tech TGR to work his way through up and into that 4th position with DRS wide open. Eventually he'd also get past Keanu Alazari as well. There was plenty of battles up and down the order as everyone was fighting their way around the circuit, the Spa-Francorchamps. A battle to take over second position then came the way of the number 4 of Nikita Johnson as he was able to find his way past on Alex Ninovic, your race 1 winner. And with time ticking away, he would have maybe one opportunity to try and catch down on our hill speed driver. The race would end 2 laps early with Kanato Lee coming across the line ahead of Nikita Johnson and Alex Ninovic. A surprise for some of the drivers as well, as they're all trying to find their way across the line. Dion Gowder would be passed by Freddie Slater, who would rise up to 8th position from 23rd on the grid after yet another incredible drive. But across the line for the first time in his GB3 career is Kanato Lee to take victory.
Kanato, congratulations, your first win in GB3. How does that feel?
Thank you. Yeah, it really feels nice to finally win. You know, we've had the pace all weekend, and finally, we managed to put it together and win. So yeah, feeling good.
It was a difficult way to do it. It was quite a slow start, but you fought back fantastically. Just talk us through that fight back drive.
Yeah, honestly, the start wasn't the best. I had a really terrible start, to be honest. But I just managed to settle down. Stay calm, and get the position back, just staying calm and just drive how I was doing the whole weekend, and yeah, I managed to win.
And P3 in race 1, now a win. What can you do in race 3?
Hopefully the same. Podium will be nice, but definitely going for the win again.
Well done, Kanato. Fantastic drive, fantastic weekend so far.
Thank you.
Nikita, sorry. Well, who cares about grid penalties? What a fight back there. P6 to P2.
Yeah, we had a lot of pace in our car. We were very fast. I passed all those guys. I could stay with them through sector 1, 2, 3. So High-Tech gave me an amazing car. We were running down Kanato a bit, but yeah, something happened in the end. But I think we might have been able to go for the win, but it's woulda, shoulda, coulda. So we'll see what happens. Maybe tomorrow we'll have a good race and come from wherever I'm starting up front. So we'll see.
Talk us through some of those moves, because you really had to work hard to make progress there.
Yeah, so it was pretty difficult, especially when I was like 5th or 6th and everybody was in a DRS train. I just had to go time it right and go kind of choose my battles. But fortunately, with the DRS train, I could kind of pass a car and get right back in DRS, so I didn't have to worry about defending. So that was a bit nice.
You really seem to love this place. What can you do in race 3?
Get on the podium, maybe get a win. That would be great to, get a lot of passing points and get a podium, because we need a few points. We've haven't had the best of luck, and I made a mistake in race 1, so we're lacking a bit of points. So if we can get a good race 3, then I'm really happy for this weekend.
Well, congratulations. It's been a fantastic weekend for you so far, and let's see what you can do in race 3.
Thank you very much.
Alex, congratulations. What a great day for you here. P1 and now P3. A fantastic start to the weekend.
Yeah, really happy with today to finish P1 and P3, scoring really good points for the championship, and yeah, a lot better than what we were in testing. So we made a really good jump in qualifying, and obviously showed it in the race. To qualify P1 in Quali 1 and get the win was really nice, and then today and this afternoon to get P3. So yeah, really good day.
Talk us through the start, because I think you went from the second row of the grid and you were into the lead by turn one. Must be one of the best starts you made in your single-seater career.
Yeah, it was really good. This morning I made a little mistake and it didn't give us much advantage. But then for this afternoon I fixed up a few things with my start technique and we managed to get into P1 by turn 2 and then do some really good, got a really good exit out turn 1 and then managed to stay in the lead for about 5 laps before Kanato and Nikita came past. So yeah, managed a few things in that race but did my best to come away with P3.
It's been a fantastic day for you in the terms of the championship. You took the lead in the championship standings this morning. You've extended that gap as well in race 2. Just how important could today be, do you reckon, for your championship chances for the rest of the season?
Yeah, really good to get a really good jump in the championship with points. It definitely could pay off in the long haul, and you know, I did my best today, and it obviously showed that we can do good things. So yeah, super happy with how I've performed today.
Congratulations, Alex. A fantastic day. Let's see what you can do in race 3.
Thank you.
Great to hear from Alex Dinovic and, of course, the entirety of the top 3 as we get ready to go racing for the 3rd time here. You can see the conditions out there. It's a little bit damp on the circuit, as you'd expect around here at Spa, but it's not presently raining as far as we're aware, so there's a few drivers that might be gambling with the slick tyres coming into the 3rd race and that reverse grid. Let's take a look at this iconic circuit, though, in all its 7-kilometre glory. Nestled deep in the Ardennes is one of motorsport's most iconic circuits. We've been around for more than 100 years. We'll take a look around the circuit then, that deep braking zone into La Source, that first corner, of course, beginning this 2-kilometre run through Eau Rouge and Raidillon up to Les Combes before they get onto the brakes and flick it through the right-left and then right once more. Dropping down the hill finally into Bruxelles before we get into Speaker's Corner, then through the fast double left-hander at Pune into Le Fagna for the right-hander at Campus, and then the flat-out right-hander at Stavelot brings us all the way down to the iconic Blanchimont. We'll get onto the brake for the final complex of corners, the bus stop chicane, which begins the 2nd DRS zone. Of course, the first of the DRS zones being on that run up towards Les Combes. 101 metres of elevation all the way around this circuit, all being climbed from the bottom of Eau Rouge all the way to the top at Les Combes. 19 iconic corners in the world of motorsport. That is Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. Understand why it's a favourite for so many of the drivers and why drivers like Alex Dinovic and Kanato Lee were so happy with their victories a little bit earlier on in the day. Of course, the pair of those being on the podium in both of the races yesterday. Who's going to be on the podium in this one? We'll have to wait and see, of course. Kanato Lee was a position shy of finishing on the podium yesterday. He ended up in 4th place. This is what he said after race 2.
Keanu, a very eventful race for you yesterday. Looked like a lot of fun out there. A couple of grassy moments. Just talk us through from your perspective.
Yeah, I think it was quite a fun race. Obviously, P5 is the highest we've started in one of the first 2 races so far. The car felt really good. Pace has been strong so far, and yeah, we're making a lot of progress. A little bit of an eventful first lap. I think I had a decent run into turn 1, but misjudged the gap and ended up in the grass before T1. Got a really strong run down to on the Kemmel Straight, and once again ended up a little bit on the grass. So just misjudged those situations a little bit, lost some momentum, but still slotted into P4, which wasn't too bad. Obviously, I think P1 was there before Les Combes, so we need to assess that and go over it and learn from it. So yeah.
Very close, you say, obviously P4, very close to a podium in a main race, which would have been your first time. How much confidence does that give you for the rest of the season?
Yeah, I think it's been a solid step for us so far this weekend. We've all improved, so we've been struggling a little bit, but the team has been working hard, understanding the new car, and it's been feeling a lot better. So yeah, we'll take what we can learn, and obviously it was a good confidence boost, but I always knew I had the speed and the race performance to do so. So yeah, it's obviously a good step, but we need a couple more spots for me to be entirely happy, if I'm being honest.
You're starting P7 in this race. I think we're pretty likely you're going to have a change of conditions compared to the 2 races we've had before. The rain's coming down. I get the impression that you're quite looking forward to a race around here in the wet.
Yeah, I mean, I always love coming to Spa, and especially with the weather. You never know what it's going to be like. Last year I was here around the same time, and the race was cancelled for a snowstorm. So obviously the track is quite legendary, and you never know with the conditions, but I really love a wet Spa. Obviously we're in for some carnage if it does stay like this. And obviously some interesting tyre strategies if it dries up a little bit.
Well, I don't think it's going to snow. It looks like it's going to stay wet. Wishing you a very good race, and let's see what happens.
Yeah, thank you very much.
into the cars then, getting ready to go out. Importantly there, you can see Freddie Slater and Kanato Lee, I think, Yamakoshi as well, all on the slick tyres for the hill speeds. We look over at VRD though, they are running on the wet tyres at the moment. There is Hugo Schwarzer, your reverse grid pole sitter. He'll be starting from first place in this race. You can see to the JHR developments camp as well. Everyone's really getting ready to go racing because it's not that long before we'll take to the 11 laps of the circuit, the Spa-Francorchamps, to see who's able to come out on top. Could it be Hugo Schwarzer for the second time? He proved himself as a bit of a reverse grid master, of course, in the previous round at Zandvoort, where he was able to find himself into the victory. Who's going to be joining him this time by, of course, speaking of reverse grid masters, Deegan Fairclough, back in Silverstone, back of the grid, up to the top 10. Has struggled this weekend, though. Has started from the back of the grid in the first 2 races. Has been unable to get a top 10. This is what he had to say before we move in to race 3.
Deegan, well, what a weekend you're having. For the second time this year, you're having to start all 3 races from the back of the grid, but that doesn't seem to have stopped you, does it?
Yeah, no, it's obviously a little bit gutting that we're at the back, but it's a learning curve, and yeah, to fight from the back is quite nice, and feel these experiences is beneficial for the long run.
An interesting stat for you, across the races where you've been starting from the back, is so far you've made up 66 places in those races, so you've clearly been getting your elbows out, and despite all that, you're still 6th in the championship standings. That must be a good confidence booster for you, thinking that when the events go right, you're going to be right up there.
Yeah, exactly. We're getting some experience for the reverse grids, I would say. Yeah, we just need to get my side for qualifying right, and yeah, we should be okay and get fighting for the championship is the main target.
Talking the reverse grid, that's coming up in the next few minutes. Track conditions have changed quite a lot. How do you feel about racing in the rain at Spa?
I cannot wait. I love the rain, and it brings some more entertainment, so hopefully we can get some more overtakes. And yeah, we get overtakes for points this race, so it's beneficial for the championship, and we need to maximise it as best as we can.
Yeah, if you replicate the progress you've made in the first 2 races, you're going to be in for a big points haul. Just how important could that be for the rest of the season?
Yeah, it's very important. Obviously, we was on the back foot from qualifying, and we've just got to maximise the points where we get them. And this championship, you get points all the way down to 20th. So it's a lot better for me. Obviously, being so far back, making up them positions are really crucial. And yeah, I'm excited. Hopefully, we can. I don't know, maybe top 5 would be unreal, but yeah, no, another top 10 would be great.
Well, I think we'll all look forward to that. Good luck in this last race, and let's see how you get on.
Thank you.
Great to hear from Deegan Fairclough again. It's been a tricky season for our rookie. He had a couple of podiums back in Zandvoort, and again has been looking fairly strong, but he's had to work from the back of the grid in what would now, it was 4 of the races that we've had so far. It'll be the 5th race that we start from the back of the field. That's why he finds himself joint 5th in the championship with Will McIntyre, who would technically be ahead courtesy of the race victory back in Silverstone. But looking at the top of the standings is Alex Ninovic, your championship leader, and by 21 points, looking really good after scoring some decent points. 2 podiums here at Spa. Pat Huizenbode there in 2nd position. Noah Lyle inside the top 3. And of course, Gianmarco Prado, all Australians, 1st through 4th. Before we get to the 2 Brits of Deegan Fairclough and Will McIntyre. McIntyre's had a very up and down season, it must be said, but still he's got the pace to win. He's proven that back in Silverstone. Nikita Johnson then in 7th position, with Freddie Slater rising his way back up, courtesy of the excellent driving he's been putting on this weekend, of course, on his return to the GB3 Championship. Hugo Schwarzer, though, the driver starting from reverse grid pole, will be starting from 9th, is 9th in the standings, and Kanato Lee, who's also returning, much like Freddie Slater, to the championship for this round. He's 10th in the standings on 92 points and could be running on some slick tyres in what could be a very, very difficult race indeed with the 11 laps ahead. You can see all the cars then. They've been brought out of the garages. They've been prepared in pit lane. You can take a little bit of a closer look to see who's deciding to run on the slick tyres and on the wets. Definitely Keanu Alazari there on the right-hand side in the number 6 on the bright pink BWT car. He is running on the wet tyres. Interestingly though, one of the Argenti with Premers there on the right hand side looks to be on slicks by my eye. What the other 2 high-tech TGR cars are doing, much like Keanu Alazari, remains to be seen. Could they be running themselves on wet tyres also? So cars running towards the end of pit lane. I don't think they've been released just yet. And of course, they're getting themselves ready for the race. It's going to be exciting. Again, 11 laps ahead of us. It's always a very exciting one. You can see them there. Will McIntyre on the closest of those elite cars, those 3 elite cars with the blue highlights on the front wing. A race winner back in Silverstone. Have a bit of work to move his way forward. Giano Alazari then released. We caught up with him pre-race. They've been released to take a little trip around the circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, and whilst they are doing so, it's probably about time that we have a look around the circuit de Spa-Francorchamps as well, on board with Will McIntyre. Let's take a trip then around the circuit de Spa-Francorchamps in the capable hands of Will McIntyre for Elite Motorsports. Across the start-finish line before we rise our way up into La Source, a hairpin, little bit of banking going into the corner, but it's slightly raised as you come out. Watch out for the sausage curb there on the left-hand side. Obviously, the other side of it is just gravel. Racing our way then down the hill, and don't get too distracted by the beauty of Eau Rouge and Radion, one of the most iconic corners in all of motorsport. Keep it absolutely pinned through there. We're pinned for 2 kilometres from La Source up to Les Combes. We flick it through the kink, really not a nothing corner at Kemmel Curve, and then we keep rising and rising and rising up the Kemmel Straight into Les Combes. The curb starts on the left hand side. You want to brake a little bit after that before we flick it right, then left, not using too much of the curb. These cars do not like it. And then through Malmedy. Now the descent begins down the roller coaster as we get our way ready for Bruxelles or Rivage. All the corners around here have multiple names, and this being one of them. Go for a slightly later apex before we can get it back over to the right hand side into Speakers through the left hander, and again gravel on the right hand side, and that new reprofile from 2022. Got to be careful without running too far out wide. So fast going into Podium, almost completely pinned as they throw it through, having a little bit of oversteer through the mid part of the corner before we dab the brakes and go through Le Fagna. Of course, flick it to the right hand side. You want to keep going right a little bit longer than you think before we go over to the left hand side. That opens up the corner and gets you ready for Campus. Dab of the brake, flick it in, and then prepare to not touch the brake pedal for quite a while once more. We go through the likes of Stavolo before we prepare ourselves for one of the best overtaking corners on this circuit. Before that though, we've got to deal with Blanchimont. It's a completely flat out corner in these cars. We're rising back up the hill once more, and then we go through this corner here. This is Blanchimont, completely flat, easy peasy, but you can get side by side through there. If you do so, you're opening yourself up for a great overtaking opportunity down here into the bus stop. Again, rising up the hill, and a solid elevation change between the 2 apexes of the bus stop. That there is a lap of the circuit de Spa-Francorchamps with Will McIntyre. One third down, 2/3 left to go, and what a fitting way to start this middle leg of the championship. It's round 9 of the GB3 Championship, partnered by the BRDC from the iconic Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, and of course, it's the reverse grid race as well. We've had a great couple of races to start out the weekend. We've had some great overtakes. La Source has ticked all the boxes. Eau Rouge and Radion has had side by side. We've had 4 wide on the race up the Kemmel Straight into Les Combes, and plenty of moves as we begin the descent through Bruxelles, Speakers, Podium, Le Fagna and Campus. Not so much when it comes to overtaking around the back end of the circuit. We had a little bit through Blanchimont in race 1. Then the bus stop chicane ends the lap with the second DRS zone as well, going on that start finish and on the Kemmel Straight as well. 101 metres of elevation, met all the way from the bottom of Eau Rouge to the top at Les Combes. The lowest point in the circuit though being out around Stavolo. We can see all the drivers onto the grid. And if you joined us with GB4 just a week ago at Alton Park, when it was very 50-50 on who was going on what tyre compound, well, copy and paste that one here to GB3 as well. It is very 50-50 out there. We've got some of the Argenti with Premers. They're out on the slick tyres at the moment. We've got some of the Hill Speeds out on the slick tyres as well. It is very interesting to see this switch. We've got Reza Sawuthan, Dion Gowder, Jack Sherwood, Freddie Slater, Yamakoshi. All of those drivers are on slick tyres, and potentially even more so. The highest placed driver on the slick tyres, though, is Dion Gowder. So the XL Motorsports car, he is the one that is the highest placed, potentially, to make the gamble. He'll be starting this race from 5th there on the grid. So not the first of the XL cars, the second of the XL cars, a little bit further down there on the right-hand side of your screen at the moment. Very interesting call. I am really not sure. It's kind of that bit where it's not really raining that much. It's the wetness that's already on the circuit. If you're on the wet tyres, you're going to start out really strong, but you can burn out those tyres very, very quickly. For the slick tyres, they could come good as the race unfolds. There's so many questions to be answered in this one, so we'll have to keep our eyes very close to the action to see who's going to be flying up and down the order, because this is going to be a tricky one to follow. They head their way through La Source and begin the descent on the formation lap to begin this final race of the weekend. Let's remind ourselves of the grid then. It's Hugo Schwarzer starting from reverse grid pole, our race winner at Zandvoort, alongside Kai Darianani, who had the reverse grid pole back there with a bit of a struggle to the race start. Pat Huizenrode came into the weekend as the championship leader. He could retake it this time. He'll be starting from 3rd. Noah Lyle will be starting from 4th place. Got a couple of cars starting in pit lane. We'll come back to that in a second. As we've got Dion Gowder in 5th position. Will McIntyre in 6th, of course, the race winner back in Silverstone earlier on in the year, with Keanu Alazari, who caught up with pre-race. Hiyu Yamakoshi will be racing around, we believe, on the slick tyres. He's in 8th position. Alex Ninovich, the championship leader, will start from 9th, with Nikita Johnson starting from, I think, the pit lane. We'll have to wait and see on that one. Gianmarco Prado will start from 11th spot, with Kanato Lee in 12th. For the Hill Speeds team. Abby Pulling will be starting from 13th, with Wampu Shui alongside in 14th position for the Argenti with Frame, I believe, on the wet tyres. Meanwhile, his teammate Reza Sawuthan will be starting on the slicks in 15th. Jack Sherwood in 16th, also believed to be on the slicks. Flynn Jacks in 17th, with Stefan Bostangiev starting from 18th position. 2 further drivers to be left inside the top 20, being Lucas Flusha and Bianca Bustamante for Elite Motorsports. 3 more drivers left to go, as we'll see the final few, with Divi Nandan and Deegan Fairclough there in 22nd. The final row of the grid is Freddie Slater all by himself. So, the 2 drivers that I saw in pit lane, I'm going to correct myself, I said it might have been Nikita Johnson. I actually believe it's Deegan Fairclough starting from the pit lane, along with Lucas Flusha. So those 2 are starting from pit lane and have had a bit of a change of heart as to where they want to be running at the moment during this race. It's going to be very, very tricky to see. There is a look then at the number 7 of Deegan Fairclough, and he's on slick tyres. So that's not majorly a shock that the drivers starting from pit lane are on the slicks. It does seem as though it might be the more aggressive call. Let's go with that. And Deegan Fairclough, who's already slated to start from the rear end of the field, might as well take that gamble. Meanwhile, Freddie Slater, who's starting along on that rear row of the grid, we believe is already on the slicks. There is Lucas Flusha, ready to start his race again from the pit lane in the Argenti with Prema. Will anyone come in at the end of the formation lap to bail off of the wet tyres? There was quite a lot of spray heading up the hill into the likes of Les Combes, which does give me a little bit of a concern. Into the pit lane then comes Pat Huizenrode for the XL Motorsports team. So there is a taker into the pit lane to get off of the wet tyres and already go onto the slicks. That could be a very good call, considering the majority of the grid are on the wets. And if they are the wrong tyre, they are going to go backwards, completely out of control. There's a look into the eyes of Deegan Fairclough in the car. It's been a tricky weekend for Fairclough, much like it was back in Silverstone. He's not been able to repeat the excellent driving that he had at the previous round of the championship at Zandvoort. I mean, to be fair, he's raced really well, but again, just starting from the rear end of the field after an issue in qualifying. Well, we've got 3 cars starting from the pit lane, which means we've got 20 out there on circuit, about ready to get into position to begin their drive. Anyone on slick tyres is potentially going to struggle a little bit up towards turn 1 and into Les Combes, but it seems as though that middle part of the circuit is where all the speed is. And that's where they might be able to find their way through. On the right-hand side, the one with the clear space ahead, that is Dion Gouda, our highest-placed slick tyre runner on the circuit. The green flags come out, 11 laps are ready to go racing, and for the third and final time here at the circuit of Spa-Francorchamps, we are racing. And counter to how it was back in Zandvoort, it's a great start from Kai Darianani, who's gone from second place straight up into the race lead after passing and making his way through on Hugo Schwarzer in the VRD Racing Cup. So a great start from Kai Darianani, and no dramas from the midfield. Schwarzer's tried side by side 3 times this weekend, 1 in each of the races. He's going to give it another go here, and he is going to work his way straight back through. So the 33 that was on the left-hand side on the inside going into Rouge and Radion works his way straight back up into the race lead. It's Hugo Schwarzer leading from Kai Darianani, and let's see how things are going to chop and change on the Kemmel Straight. You've got Will McIntyre, who's running in 4th position, trying to get himself back into it, and 3 wide with 2 of the JHR Developments driver and the VRD, the 33 that has just come through in 1st place. That is Hugo Schwarzer, then it's Kai Darianani, then it's Noah Lyle, then it's Will McIntyre in the black and yellow elite car, with the bright pink of Keanu Alazari just working his way through on Will McIntyre then, and now trying to find his way past Noah Lyle. It's the bright pink around the outside of Noah Lyle at the moment, using the wet tyres, as those that are on the slicks have dropped back, but they're playing the long game in this race. They're not too worried about where they are now, they're worried about where they will be in 10 laps time. It's Dion Gouda, the highest place of those slick tyres, or less so now. I think Reza Sawuthan, or rather Hiya Yamakoshi will be the highest place of those on the slick tyres at the moment, in 8th position by my knowledge. We'll have to wait and see as to whether he definitely is on those slick tyres, but of course that red and black car just coming through the shot now, that car right there that had just gone through the foreground shot, I believe was on the slick tyres. So again, a lot for these drivers to juggle around here. If he is on the slick tyres, he's driving fantastically around Spa, just to keep that car on the road and to keep those the heat in those slick tyres. And this is where it gets a little bit easier for those slick tyre runners around this part of the circuit, where it's not quite as damp as it is at the top at Les Combes. So, single file they'll work their way through. It's Hugo Schwarzer leading by 1.6 seconds. He looks for a second victory in as many weekends in the GB3 Championship, partnered by the BRDC. It's Keanu Alazari now up into 3rd position. Can he find his way through on Kai Darianani? Can Keanu Alazari take victory? He's looked really fast at various points, and again he came a position short of the podium in the previous race. He's not a position short of the podium at the moment though. He is right on the money as he tries to find his way through. Already trying to find some of the wet part of the circuit there was Nikita Johnson in 7th position. So already the wet tyres not necessarily overheating at this very moment in time, but they're just trying to make sure that they're getting onto the wet bit to cool the tyres down as much as possible. From what I'm seeing here, I'm not liking the wet tyres so much. Yes, they are the right tyre to be on at this exact moment in time, but in 10.5 laps, it does seem as though it's going to be very much better for the slicks. The only major problem is this part of the track right here. You can see the rooster tails coming off the rear end of the cars as they head their way up the hill into Les Combes, into the wettest part really of the circuit. It's Hugo Schwarzer leading by 1.3 seconds over Kai Darianani. It's Keanu Alazari behind. It's then Noah Lyle, Will McIntyre, Alex Ninovich, Nikita Johnson, Hiyu Yamakoshi, and the likes behind. And interestingly, DRS has been enabled for the drivers. So enough drivers are on the slicks and it is dry enough out there. Of course, the DRS would not be active if it was too damp out there. So DRS will be ready and available for our drivers on this lap. They will have used a little bit of it on the rise up towards Les Combes, but they'll get that second usage of it by the time they get down into the first corner. Keanu Alazari, after getting past Noah Lyle, is now starting to feel the pressure from one of the drivers who's inside that top 4 of the championship, one of our Australians that's in contention for the title. Doesn't mean that Keanu Alazari is outside of it, just he's got to do a little bit of work and get some solid results and make sure he's constantly beating the likes of Noah Lyle on his way to the checkered flag. About 3/4 or 2/3 really of the way round this second lap of proceedings, and there's not been any major overtakes in this group but you kind of get the feeling with those running on the slick tyres a little bit further down that those overtakes are indeed coming. Dion Gowda, who dropped back to 20th position, is only 7.7 seconds clear of Deegan Fairclough, who of course started the race from the pit lane alongside Pat Huizenmoder and Lucas Fluscher. Those three at the back starting from the pit lane are closing their way up to the top group. Was that Pat Huizenmoder, I believe, struggling a little bit for grip on those slick tyres. Fairclough is flying at the moment. Yamakoshi, though, I'm not sure if he is on the actually on the slicks. If he is, he's got some excellent speed. I'm going to say Richard Randall, who is the one who's been interviewing all the drivers this weekend. He did say that Yamakoshi is on the slicks at the moment. That is the black and red car that's a few back from where we're looking. So Yamakoshi could be genuinely in a very good position to get an excellent result from this race. If he's able to keep those slicks up to temperature, if it remains dry and gets drier, that racing line will get faster and faster for him. Fastest lap came from Alex Ninovic. It was a 2 minute 29.5. For those that started from the pit lane at the rear end of the field, Deegan Fairclough set a 2 minute 30.591. Now we know Ninovic is on the wet tyres and we know Fairclough is on the slicks, so they're not very distant on pace when it comes to the difference in tyre compound. So for me, again, these slick tyres are already starting to turn over. Saw Keanu Alazari trying to make a move on Kai Darianani on the brakes into Lake Com. I don't believe that one has worked out in favour of Darianani. There's Reza Sawuthan in the number 10 car, currently running in 13th position, definitely on the slick tyres. You can see how much that one's dancing around. He's been passed by Freddie Slater, who's also running on the slicks from the rear end of the field. And he's got Flynn Jacks directly behind him, who is, I believe, on the wet. So scrambling for grip around Spa as they all try and keep it on. So Yamakoshi, we're getting confirmed, is actually on the wet tyres. So he is on the wets. It's Kanato Lee, who is in 16th position. He is the one that is on the slick. So as much as I was bigging up Yamakoshi there for having an excellent drive, I did think it may be a little bit too good to be true. But the 66 still runs there in 8th position. We're seeing Jack Sherwood then, who is on the slicks. He's got Kanato Lee on the slicks directly behind him. So there's quite a few drivers back here. So you've definitely got Freddie Slater on the slicks, Reza Sawuthan on the slicks, Jack Sherwood, Kanato Lee. We've obviously got Dion Gowda, Deegan Fairclough, Pat Huizenmoder and Lucas Fluscher. They are all on slick tyres. And so at the moment, they're the ones that we need to keep our eye on, because they're the ones that might be able to move their way through as the race moves on. Obviously everyone else then on the wet. So Freddie Slater at present in 12th position is on the slicks. Into the pit lane then comes your race leader Hugo Schwarzer. He's had enough of the wets. He says these are not the right tyres for now. Let's get ahead of the problem and let's get onto some slicks for the VRD Racing driver. Freddie Slater from the back of the field could win this race and take 32 points for race victory. It's 20 points of victory across the line, plus a maximum of 12 points for positions gained versus your race starters. Of course, he'd be from 23rd to 1st if that was the case, so it would be 22, but 12 is the maximum. Getting a great shot of the mechanics here doing work on Hugo Schwarzer's car as they put the tyres onto the car, put the slicks on, and send Hugo Schwarzer back out onto the circuit. Battle for the race lead is Kai Darianani, the bright pink of Keanu Alazari, working his way through and straight up into the race lead with a bit of usage of the DRS as well. So into Lake Com they go. It is Alazari at front, Kai Darianani, Noah Lyle, fastest lap of the race, and this is the big concern for all of the drivers on the circuit right now, as we'll see a replay of that overtake from Alazari. Fastest lap, Freddie Slater, slick tyres in hand, highest placed of them, flying at the moment around the circuit de Spa-Francorchamps as he closes up on the rear end of Gianmarco Prado. For all those that have gone onto the slick tyres as well at the start of the race, there could be some big gains for the likes of Reza Sawuthan, for the likes of the drivers that want to battle for the championship, 5th place in the championship of course, for Deegan Fairclough. A 10-second time penalty. There's also, that's what it was. It wasn't coming into the pit lane, although he did have a pit stop. So there is a 10-second post-race time penalty regardless for car 33. That is, of course, Hugo Schwarzer down in 23rd position now. So maybe that's what it was about. They've already had a bad situation. So they might as well come into the pit lane get a pit stop done. That is a 10-second time penalty, not a 10-second stop and go. So he didn't have to come into the pit lane to serve it, and he won't have served it. Or he would have served it before his pit stop, wouldn't he? We'll update you on that one for Hugo Schwarzer. But either way, he's at the back end of the field and he's going to be struggling through this race. If not, that 10 seconds will be added post-race regardless. So it's Keanu Alazari leading from Kai Darianani with 4 laps about to be complete. Darianani's closing his way back in. More fastest laps coming in from Freddie Slater, and he's right on the rear end of Gianmarco Pradl. Could he be working his way through into the lead of that group there in the near future? Across the line they go. And the leaders just set a 2-minute 29.031. Fastest laps just coming from Reza Sawuthan at a 2-minute 26.593. So they're about 3 seconds a lap faster as the battles inside that four show Alex Ninovic trying to get down the inside of Noah Lyle. Lyle also trying to battle with Kai Darianani. Ninovic trying to keep Will McIntyre at bay. Alex Ninovic, your championship leader, could be losing a fair amount of ground in the championship if the race continues as it looks. It looks fine at the moment with 4th place. Flynn Jacks and Bianca Bustamante are both into the pit lane to go onto the slick tyres also. So the top grouping, that top 7, Alazari, Darianani, Lyle, Ninovic, McIntyre, Johnson and Shui, they are all on wet tyres. Freddie Slater is coming right after them. He's in 7th at the moment as Wampu Shui drops back behind Reza Sawuthan, who's having a great drive in the number 10. Argenti with Prema Cup. So Reza Sawuthan's closing his way up with Freddie Slater, and he's following the 2-time GB3 race winner through the field present to maybe eye up his chance of taking a victory here at the circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. Out wide a little bit there was Nikita Johnson on the rear end of Will McIntyre. There is Bianca Bustamante into the pit lane to go on to the slick tyres. Of course, just behind you can see Flynn Jacks, the other of the elite cars. Unfortunately for elite there, both cars coming into the pit at the same time and don't have too many mechanics to spare to go and change the tyres on that car. We're approaching the halfway point of the race. There you saw Reza Sawuthan fire his way through Podium as he tries to keep up with the frantic pace of Freddie Slater, and in the middle sector he did lose out a little bit of ground. He lost, to be fair, he gained 4/10 of a second in the first sector. That would have been DRS. And as they cross over the second sector split, Freddie Slater's just set the fastest middle sector of the race. It was 1.5 seconds faster than Reza Sawuthan. It was more than 2 seconds, nearly 3 seconds faster than your race leader Keanu Alazari was Freddie Slater in that middle sector. There is Bianca Bustamante and Flynn Jacks out of pit lane. Flynn Jacks, of course, with the orange highlighted Elite Motorsports car, the white highlights going for Bianca Bustamante. And this is back to the lead group. So they've all come together in one big train. It's Alazari, then in second place it's Darianani, then Lyle, then McIntyre, then Ninovic, then Johnson, and where is Freddie Slater? He is right on the back of Nikita Johnson. That red and black car, drive of drives, coming in from Freddie Slater. Started in 23rd position and has taken the gamble to start on the slicks. He works his way to the inside now of Nikita Johnson and finds himself into the top 5. This is a win that is destined to be for Freddie Slater if he can possibly get there. Alex Ninovic, the next one to be passed. He's now in 5th place, as he's starting to work his way through. He's now in 4th place as if it's nothing as he flies his way past Will McIntyre. Reza Sawuthan will be the next one onto the scene to try and make the move. And I get the feeling that before the end of the lap, we're going to see a new race leader in the form of Freddie Slater. He's onto the rear end and taking a look down the inside of Noah Lyle, but cannot make the move. Meanwhile, the battling behind between Nikita Johnson and Alex Ninovic sees the switch in position that way. Nikita Johnson trying to keep Ninovic at bay. I think it's gone the way of the high-tech driver. So Johnson is ahead of Ninovic, and now they're being joined by the Argenti with Prema car of Reza Sawuthan, who's gone straight to the outside, a little bit too deep as they head their way through Rivage and Bruxelles, and Bianca Bustamante has been into the barrier. She's unfortunately going to be retiring from this race. There's been a hit to the barrier. You can see on the right-hand side, you can see the top of the suspension is also exposed as the cover of it has come off. And into the pit lane is Stefan Bostangiev as well. Let's take a look at a replay as to how Freddie Slater was able to get through. A brilliant move on Ninovic and a great line as well to get that move done on Freddie Slater. As Bianca Bustamante out of the race. We'll have to wait and see if a safety car is going to be deployed. Certainly yellow flags in that part of the racetrack. Bostantiev's the only one in pit lane. I said we were going to get a new leader before the end of the lap. There he goes, Freddie Slater, straight through in the red and black car on Keanu Alazari. And Freddie Slater has gone from 23rd to 1st in half the race distance. We've still got 5 laps left to go at the line. But the drive of the day so far, I mean, there's no question. It's definitely Freddie Slater. Reza Sawuthan, though, with a great move here coming up towards Blanchimont. Has he made that one stick? He certainly has. He's up to 4th position. Reza Sawuthan then on the right-hand side in the silver and blue car, trying to work his way up onto the podium, as there's a big move coming in from Will McIntyre behind in the black and yellow. Sawuthan then has worked his way up into 3rd position and onto the podium with a good drive out of the final corner. He'll get past Keanu Alazari as well. And so it's Reza Sawuthan on the slick tyres up into 2nd spot. And now we wait to look back to see who's the next driver on the slicks. It's Kanato Lee in 9th spot. He's the next highest driver on the slick tyres. All these drivers we're looking at here, apart from that red and black car coming through the middle, they're all on the wets at the moment, as a few drivers come into the pit lane. Hiyu Yamakoshi and Gianmarco Prado both into the pit lane as well. The red and black car there, that's the 4th in this train, is Kanato Lee, who could be taking 3 podiums from 3 races, iconic drives at iconic Spa. A big race leader's already come out for Freddie Slater. He's 2.6 seconds clear of Reza Sawuthan, who's starting to pull clear comfortably of Keanu Alazari. Here's a look at the easiness of the move that he had, although I would like to see the live pictures and the battling that was happening there coming up to Les Combes, because it looked like they were going about 3 wide there. So Reza Sawuthan put the foot down onto the floor, and he was able to work his way past and up into 2nd spot. There was a look in the pit lane at Yamakoshi, who's stationary in pit lane, as Kanato Lee, he's in 4th. Yellow flags have come out here into Speaker's Corner, though. This is where the drama has been for Bianca Bustamante, I believe, although there might have been a little bit more drama, but I believe it is for Bustamante as the yellow flags remain out. And look at how painful that seems for Kanato Lee. He's waiting and waiting and waiting. He sees the green flag on the exit of Pouon, and bam! Already alongside Keanu Alazari as they head into Les Combes, which was into the Piff Paff, into Le Fagna rather, which is the bit that we're seeing just here, or not, and we'll see the great overtaking coming in from Kanato Lee. So he's ahead of Keanu Alazari. Kanato Lee up into 3rd spot, and so all of your top 3 at the moment, they're running on the slick tyres. Fastest first sector, fastest second sector has come in for Pat Huizenroder, who has the fastest lap of the race thus far. And let's take a look at a replay. Some drama in the pit lane. Ow, that was Flynn Jacks clipping the wheel that was obviously dropped off from the rear end of Bianca Bustamante. And that, to me, it's kind of dangerous a little bit. I did think that he was a little bit further over to the close to the pit wall, was Flynn Jacks than Bianca Bustamante, but either way, we don't normally see pit stops in this. And there onto the scene comes Pat Huizenroder then in the XL Motorsports car. Remember, that car started from pit lane but was late to enter into the pit lane. That is the white, blue and pink car that you can see in the background trying to battle. You've got the bright pink of Keanu Alazari in 4th position. You've got side by side with Deegan Fairclough, who is the next highest placed slick driver in the number 7 high-tech TGR car, and it is Deegan Fairclough then up into 4th position. Here comes Patrick Huizenroder going side by side as they head their way into Eau Rouge and Radion, and in these conditions to do that, such bravery as Huizenroder was able to get past Kai Darianani, who was the driver who went straight on there. That was absolute bravery from Pat Huizenroder, who could be finding himself now heading back to the top of the championship if the likes of his championship rivals in Ninovic drop backwards. Ninovic is down at 18th spot because he's in the pit lane. Points are only for the top 15. As there comes the move to the outside of Keanu Alazari. The bright pink of Alazari trying to fend off Pat Huizenroder. But Huizenroder's already come through, trying to find a little bit of the wet patch of the road. Also was the black and yellow and blue car of Will McIntyre. We've got 6 minutes left to go in this race then. So as we cross the line, based on where we are, it should be about 3 laps left. So we should get the entirety of the 11-lap race distance in, dependent on where we are when we cross the line. It takes about 2 minutes and 20 seconds to come around the circuit. Obviously, the slightly slower speed than what we'd see in the dry around here, because wet weather, weird enough, you can't attack the racetrack quite as fast. There was a move open. Noah Lyle opened the door for Dion Gowder to come through into the top 10. So Gowder in the XL Motorsports car was the one trying to make the move there on the exit of Pouon. He had the inside line as they were leaving Pouon, and he has indeed completed the move as he now looks down the inside of Kai Darianani. That white and sort of bluey purpley car with the pink stripes as well. That's Dion Gowder, and he's making the progress right now. Could he be able to find his way through? I'm not so sure. 5 seconds the race lead though for Freddie Slater. With 5 minutes and 13 seconds left to go on the clock, he's just crossed the line to finish the lap. He set the fastest lap on the previous one at a 2 minute 20.3, and he will indeed have the race distance of 11 laps. So with 3 laps left to go, we will indeed have 11 laps of racing. So we will complete the full race distance here unless the safety car intervenes and slows things down. But for right now, it seems as though it will be good to see things out to the checkered flag in all of its fashion. So the top drivers that are on slick tyres: Freddie Slater, Reza Sweetson, Kanato Lee, Deegan Fairclough and Pat Huizenroder. Will McIntyre in 6th. He's staying out on the wets along with Keanu Alazari and Nikita Johnson. Kai Darianani also on the wets, as is Noah Lyle. I'm pretty sure basically everyone else has come in for the slicks. And those 5 drivers, they may not end up scoring points in this race just yet. I know there's 3 laps left to go, but you know how these things unfold. The thing is, a risk of a safety car is extremely high when the conditions are so tricky to drive around in. There is Reza Sawutham, who is having an absolute epic drive around Spa, looking for a podium here in the GB3 Championship, partnered by the BRDC. Had a great run back in Zandvoort, 5th, 4th and 8th for the Argentina with Prema driver. 4th place coming in that second race. He was showing some good speed, was looking for a podium. Well, it looks as though it might come a couple of weeks delayed for Reza Sawutham. Either side of that, he's had 15th, 11th and 14th. He's had 11th and 16th so far this weekend. This podium's kind of come out of nowhere. That said, it's not done for second spot because he might be passed by Kanato Lee, who is closing in on Sawutham. At the moment, the previous lap time from Kanato Lee was about 1.5 seconds faster than Reza Sawutham. So there is enough time for Lee to close in, but is there enough time for Lee to pass and make it a hill speed 1-2? That would be very, very impressive. I mean, they made the right call. That's the important bit. 3 minutes left to go, and we'll have 2 laps left at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps before we close out proceedings here in the second of our European rounds in 2025. On to the penultimate lap of the race. It's Freddie Slater, who's leading by 6 seconds. It's another fast lap for him as he continues to pull clear of the field. It was still very fast indeed from Freddie Slater. It was a 2 minute 19.4 from Slater. As you can see though, not the fastest lap of the race. Pat Huizenroder has just set a 2:18.5. That 18.5 was a second faster than Deegan Fairclough ahead, a second faster than Kanato Lee ahead, a 1.5 seconds faster than Reza Sawutham, even further ahead. I'm not saying that Pat Huizenroder can get himself onto the podium. I think that ship has sailed. But 4th place is definitely on the cards. There is a look at Pat Huizenroder in the number 5 XL Motorsports car. He's on the rear end of Deegan Fairclough. Meanwhile here we've got Reza Sawutham in the black, silver and blue. Still trying to find the pace, still trying to find the grip, still trying to keep Kanato Lee at bay for a runner-up position in this race. For Freddie Slater though, it would be another victory, 3 victories. He would have won half of the races he's competed in GB3 in 2025. Of course, he did do a round last season as well. So if you want to count that one, it's only a third of the race victories he won. Oh no. But he is running away with this one. 7 seconds clear since he's got past. Reza Sawutham did a great job following him through the field as Alex Ninovic is down in 20th spot. I think he's had a bit of a drama on this lap. The championship leader will be scoring absolutely nothing from this race. It opens up the door for 5th place in the championship, Deegan Fairclough, to throw himself back into the mix. It opens up the opportunity for the likes of Kanato Lee and Freddie Slater to throw themselves back in the mix, even though they're on a part-time run through the 2025 season. For the likes of Nikita Johnson it maybe gives them a little bit of hope of the door being opened up again. But for our top 4 in the championship, the All-Australian ranks, you've also got Gianmarco Prolo there down in 18th position. You've got Alex Ninovich down in 22nd. The highest placed of all of them is Patrick Huizenrode, and it could still get better for him. Could he be able to take over 4th position? There's Freddie Slater. The battle behind, though, as we start the final lap of the race, as Kanato Lee setting the fastest lap, and then that dropping down to Deegan Fairclough. We've got a couple of battles to come in here. Here's the battle for 2nd position, and still Kanato Lee cannot take it away right now. Reza Sawuthan's doing everything he can in his Argenti with Prema to keep the hill speed at bay, as I'm sure Pat Huizenrode is doing everything in his powers to get past Deegan Fairclough in the battle behind this. They head their way up the hill, through Eau Rouge, through Radion, up and over the top of the crest. Great drive coming in and a great run from Kanato Lee. To the outside into the Camel Curve, he'll try and make the move. It could be easily complete by the time they get into Lacombe. It certainly has been. It's a hill speed 1-2 right now. Does Reza Sawuthan have any answer to Kanato Lee's pace? It's 3 podiums from 3 races for Kanato Lee at present. As he works his way through, it's 2nd position, and I'm not sure there'll be an opportunity for Reza Sawuthan to do anything about it. Pat Huizenrode has come through into 4th spot then after starting from the pit lane with Deegan Fairclough. It was a late cooler to come in, but what a call it was from Pat Huizenrode there at the end of the formation lap to boldly go from 3rd on the grid straight into the pit lane to make the call to go on to slicks. He had a feeling on that formation lap, and that feeling has rewarded him with 4th place and a return to the top of the 2025 Championship after 9 races. Only a few corners left to tick off as they head their way through Le Fagna, down towards campus, then through Stavelot, and then on that run up here as we head our way towards Blanchimont. We head our way into the bus stop, and there is the lead being pulled out in the fight for 2nd and such. It's Kanato Lee trying to run away. Freddie Slater's got Bastantiev directly ahead of him. That is the lead car that you can see there. Stefan Bastantiev potentially going a lap down here, but he might have one more to complete around the circuit of Spa-Francorchamps. It's been a welcome return to the championship for Freddie Slater, but it's been an unbelievable drive. 23rd, all the way up the order to 1st. Hill Speed got it right on the strategy, and they are rewarded with a 1-2 finish at one of the most legendary circuits in motorsport. It's Freddie Slater, it's Kanato Lee, it's a first podium for Reza Sawuthan across the line into 3rd, with Pat Huizenrode. A big gamble to come into the pit lane on the formation lap has rewarded him with 4th place in the championship lead. Deegan Fairclough in 5th across the line, as we can see some people that maybe aren't as excited as they should be after seeing such a great race. Dion Gouda across the line in 6th, nearly 20 seconds back with Jack Sherwood and Hugo Schwarzer across the line. Schwarzer, though, with the post-race time penalty, drops back behind Flusha, and so it'll be 9th place for Hugo Schwarzer, considering he started from pole position, came into the pit lane, and actually did a pit stop in the middle of the race, and then still came through to finish in 9th. Will McIntyre on the wet tyres comes across the line inside the top 10 as well. But my goodness, what a few races we've had here at Spa. What an epic showdown that we've had, and what a drive it's been from Freddie Slater. To have pulled his way through the field in the way that he did, so very impressive. Yes, you got to get the call right, but then when you get that call right, you've got to keep it on the road, and that's something which is so incredibly difficult when it comes to racing in these greasy conditions. It's almost, you'll hear from a lot of drivers, it's almost harder racing in the greasy mixed conditions where it's sort of slicks but not really, than it is in full wet. In full wet, you understand where you are. You've got the wet tyres. That's what the grip at your disposal. They cut through the water. You don't really slide off too much on them. In those slicks, you've got to juggle so many things. You're trying to keep the temperature in them. You're trying to go on the attack. You're trying to not go off the line too much, because obviously the cooler offline running where the wet patches are slows you down quite a lot. It was a really good drive from Slater. That's not really giving enough, though, plaudits to the rest of the field that were obviously, everyone did switch on to the slicks apart from a few drivers at the end of the race. But plaudits again to Kanato Lee and to Reza Sawuthan, who will catch up with with Richard Randall after the race. There across the line is our final finisher. It's Stefan Bostanciev. And here's a little bit of a look at the race start. So it was a poor start from Hugo Schwarzer there on the left-hand side. And Kai Darianani was able to sweep through onto the into first place. Of course, there are plenty of side-by-side behind all of that. But again, a great thing to see that race start. Let's take a look, though, of course, at the second Spa-Francorchamps before we get ourselves into the podium proceedings, because Slater, Lee and Sawuthan will be working their way round into the pit lane. There they come into Parc Fermé, ready for them to be caught with. I would say, I bet Freddie Slater couldn't believe that he'd win this race from the back of the field. But I've commentated a little bit on Freddie Slater. I've watched him quite a lot in his junior single-seater driving. I don't think he is surprised one bit that he was able to take victory. He's got such confidence. The only gamble would have been the 50-50 as to really whether he'd made the right call to go on to the slick tyres. It's a 1-2 for Hill Speed. But shout out to this driver here, Reza Sawuthan, his first podium in the GB3 Championship, partnered by the BRDC, and well deserved as well. To have got that in those conditions is obviously intensely difficult. But he pieced him together, pieced the race together very well, and followed Freddie Slater through at the most important part of the race. You know, other drivers could have followed Freddie Slater through, but no, it was Reza Sawuthan who was in the position to do so. And again, just worked his way through. Got to say though, above all else, what a weekend from Kanato Lee. Obviously was missing from the last round at Zandvoort, but to take 3 podiums from 3 races, that is very rare in this championship. It's very hard to do. It only comes about ever so often. And it does take a great driver to be able to piece your way through a race cleanly, keep yourselves out of trouble. And like I say, we caught up with him after race 1 and race 2. He's shown his pace. Let's go down though to Richard Randall.
Well, what have we just witnessed there? Freddie Slater has just gone from P23 to victory. Freddie, have you ever had a race like that in your life?
No, it's pretty insane. You actually asked me before the race. You said, "Are you seriously going slicks?" And yeah, we rolled the dice. I think it was a calculated decision once we were out on the outlap to the grid, and then we knew it was going to drive fast. Especially with the cars before us, they don't drive the track very fast. So we knew with our cars, it was going to drive very quickly, and also the wet tyres don't last very long. So I knew it was the right decision. A couple of laps in, and then it just had to be calm with it. I couldn't obviously throw it down the inside in some corners because it's still wet on the inside. So I had to make sure I was calculated with the way I overtook the wet drivers with the wet tyres on. So no, insane race, but always good fun.
We know you're used to winning Ginetta Juniors F4, now in GB3, obviously in Freca as well. But have you ever done it from 23rd on the grid before?
No, that's a bit of a new one for me. Obviously, it's nice to hack through. Obviously, we've had 3 races from last position, and we finished 8th and 9th in the P1, which I never thought would have happened going into the 3 races. So honestly, amazing weekend. Hillspeed have given me an amazing car. They've done a top job, especially with the tricky conditions. Mr. A, Paul Hansen, my engineer, has done a fantastic job. So thank you very much.
I think the even more impressive thing there was that you did it in half the race. You had good practice in race 1 and race 2 going from 23rd, but you just did that in half the race. Just how did you manage it?
Yeah, just like I say, I timed my overtakes with the people on wet tyres, because obviously when you're throwing it down the inside on a slick tyre on the wet part of the track, it's a bit risky, you know. So obviously a lot of people wanted to stay in front, but we knew we had the pace, so we had to be calm with it, and then got through it and then opened the gap up at the end.
Well, a fantastic drive, Freddie. I think you'll remember that one for a very long time, and I think you need to enjoy the podium. We'll catch you up there.
Thank you.
And in second place, a 1-2 for Hillspeed, Kanato Lee. Kanato, congratulations. You started, I think, P12 and you got through to second place with a move right towards the end there. Another fantastic race for you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, it's really nice to finish the weekend again on the podium. Stood on all 3 steps, so I'm really happy about it.
Just talk us about your race, because you also went for the dry tyres. How difficult was it out there, and was it quite easy towards the end to make big progress?
Yeah, at the start it was a bit difficult. I think it was damp and I didn't really have that much temperature in the tyre, so I struggled a bit, but I had confidence that it was going to dry up, and I just kept it calm, stayed on track, and yeah, towards the end it dried up, so yeah, managed to get into second position, and yeah, it was good.
And completing an excellent weekend for you because you had a pole position, a P3 now as well, and the win yesterday, of course. What's surely one of the best weekends of your single-seater career so far?
Yeah, so far it's, I think probably one of my best weekends, podium in all 3 races and pole position. So yeah, hopefully I can carry this momentum into my next races and do well.
And a 1-2 for the team as well. Must be celebration time after this one.
Yeah, 100%.
Enjoy that. We'll see you later, Mother.
Thank you.
And finally, Reza Suwarathan, a first podium in GB3 for Reza. Reza, congratulations. You also went for the slicks at the start of that race and it really paid off.
Yeah, great call by my manager, Phil. He said, you know what, let's just do it. We'll go for slicks. Got nothing to lose, qualified quite far back, so yeah, just had to try something.
Surely a massive confidence boost for you. You've been gradually building up your results as the year's gone on, but in a race like that, making the right gamble and being able to keep it on the road must be really good for your confidence.
Yeah, definitely boosts the confidence. Nice to finish the weekend on a high. Seeing it's been really tough this weekend, but happy to end it how we did.
A very typical Spa race as well, wasn't it? Because it started off quite damp, it looked pretty treacherous, but towards the end, it really came towards the dry runners.
Yeah, it dried up really quickly, a lot quicker than I was thinking. On the outlap on the slicks, I was like, oh, some dry patches, there aren't some in other places, and yeah, dried up.
Well, it sounds like you're going to really enjoy the podium. Congratulations. Let's see if we can get a few more as the year goes on.
Definitely. Thank you very much.
And after that momentous race, we'll hand back to Lewis McGlade in the commentary box.
Highlights from round 9 of the GB3 Championship partnered by the BRDC. It was Hugo Schwarzer starting from pole position. He was already overtaken though on the race into the first corner after a poor start from him as Kai Darianani was able to work his way through. Bit of an up and under though, and he'd give it another go as they'd head their way through Eau Rouge and Radion, but through La Source. A few of those drivers at the back end of the field on the slicks remaining patient. Into the pit lane late on would be Hugo Schwarzer to take off the wet tyres and then throw on the slicks as well. A gamble that would hopefully pay off as the track was drying and drying and drying. Keanu Alazari was up in the race leads trying to fend off the likes of Kai Darianani and Noah Lyle as well behind. Meanwhile, this incident in pit lane saw a bit of contact for Flynn Jacks onto the tyre of Bianca Bustamante's car as the 2 elites came into the pit lane to change the tyres. Meanwhile, Bianca Bustamante would unfortunately be out of the race after an incident coming down the hill at Podium. She was all right, but of course the suspension there on the car being exposed after a bit of contact. Within half race distance though, Freddie Slater was able to find his way through on slick tyres from 23rd all the way up to first position. He was trying to run his way away from the field. Keanu Alazari in second spot. Will McIntyre trying to make some moves in the background, but importantly the silver and blue car in the middle of the shop, that was Reza Suwarathan, and this is how he took over second spot. A great drive off of the final chicane, and he was able to move his way up into second place and try and chase down our race leader. Late on though, it was this driver here across the line after an epic drive for Freddie Slater as he'd come through the final corner to take an epic victory. Kanato Lee in second position would make it a hill speed 1-2 and Reza Suwarathan would be in third. Really, really good race that. Very enjoyable indeed. Always exciting, but let's take a look at the podium. As you can see, it's quite wet. They'll be needing some wet tyres to stand on that podium. It is quite damp on there indeed. But again, we'll welcome out Freddie Slater, Kanato Lee. But first, we'll welcome out Reza Suwarathan for the first time. There is Kanato Lee, not for the first time, for in fact the third time this weekend. And onto the top step of the podium for the third time in his GB3 career, it's Freddie Slater taking victory once again. They'll get their trophies handed out by Jonathan Palmer, of course, the Chief Executive of MSV. There's the trophy for Reza Suwarathan. Here's the one for Kanato Lee. And again, a hill speed 1-2. They looked very strong at the opening round of the championship at Silverstone, and on their return to the GB3 Championship, they are looking strong once more. Yamakoshi was thinking about taking a gamble, but didn't. Had he done so, could we have seen all 3 hill speeds up here? That would have been a very incredible drive, but Reza Suwarathan drove so well, you just never really know. Great drive then from Freddie Slater. The British national anthem reigns for him around the circuit, the Spa-Francorchamps. That'll be a victory I'm pretty sure he's going to remember for a very, very long time. Not only is it a win around somewhere as legendary as Spa, but it is also a victory from the rear end of the field, a rarity in the GB3 Championship partnered by the BRDC. And one major thing for it, he'll score 32 points in doing so, 20 points for the race victory and 12 points, the maximum you can gain from positions gained versus your race start. Obviously, they'll spray the champagne around and well, you know, why not on the final race of the weekend? And also, why not? You're already wet enough. It's been very tricky out there, and so you might as well get some champagne thrown around as well. As the drivers all leave the podium, we'll see Kanato Lee as well get his own back on Freddie Slater. And whilst that happens, we'll take a look at the results. Provisional results then from the race, and it was an epic drive from Freddie Slater to take victory from Kanato Lee. Reza Sawuthan will be in third position alongside Pat Huizenrode in fourth, Deegan Fairclough in fifth with Dion Gowder in sixth, Jack Sherwood in seventh position with Lucas Fluscher, Hugo Schwarzer and Will McIntyre rounding out the top 10. Of course, Nikita Johnson just finishing down in 11th spot. Keanu Alazari in 12th with Kai Darianani in 13th. Noah Lyle, a big shame for him in the championship as well. He's one of those that was looking to move his way up. He's down the order in 14th position, not quite as bad as the championship leader though coming into this race. Wampu Shui in 15th position with Gianmarco Prado, Abby Pulling, Divi Nandan, Hiyu Yamakoshi, Flynn Jacks and Stefan Bostangiev, the 21st driver. Onto the final page, and it's Alex Ninovic down the order and basically out of the race, along with Bianca Bustamante, the championship leader, having drama coming into this one. And so what does that do for the championship? Yeah, it's going to blow things a little bit wide open as we head our way out of round number 9. It is still Ninovic. Actually, that is a surprise. Ninovic is still the champion leader. I thought Patrick Huizenrode was going to fly past into the championship lead, but it is Ninovic then still on top. Patrick Huizenrode in second, Deegan Fairclough in third. Freddie Slater has moved his way up into fourth position with Noah Lyle in fifth. Kanato Lee in sixth position in the championship after 3 podiums this weekend with Gianmarco Prado in seventh. Will McIntyre, Nikita Johnson and Reza Sawuthan round out the top 10, which is looking pretty tight towards the back. Kanato Lee to Reza Sawuthan, just 7 points separating them, and that proving that you can be surprised even by your own maths. I was completely shocked to see Ninovic at the top of the championship. Well, that's us done here from the circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. Next time we'll be racing, it'll be in July, and it'll be at the Hungaroring. Thank you so much for joining. I've been Lewis McGlade. You've been listening to the GB3 Championship partnered by the BRDC, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.